And now we're going to talk about the book that basically put me in this reading slump. Hello bookish people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. In today's video we are doing a combined February wrap up and March TBR. The reason I'm combining these is because in February I have only read 3 books, and yeah, that's just not enough to make it its own video. I'm in a massive reading slump right now, so my March TBR is really just supposed to be short, engaging books, and we'll talk about those when we talk about them. But let's go over the books that I read in February. So the first 2 books I want to talk about are kind of go together. So the first one is Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead by Al Cazamano. So this is the second book in the Finlay Donovan series. I did a physical reread of this book. The first time I read this book, I listened to the audiobook. I really enjoyed it. I don't remember what I rated it the first time. I think I rated it 4.5 stars the second time. I don't really remember my rating, but I enjoyed it. That's all that matters. It's not one of those series where you really have to like reread in order to understand the newest book, but I just really enjoy these characters and this world and just everything about this story. So I just wanted to like reread it just for my own enjoyment. And yeah, so in this one, you're basically following up on the events of the last book, and it's really hard to go in the synopsis for the Finlay Donovan books after the first one because I feel like they are spoilery, right, for the first one. But basically in this whole series, you're following Finlay, and she is a struggling writer, recently went through a divorce with her womanizing husband, and she's strapped for cash. She's explaining the plot to her book in a Panera, and it's like a murder mystery book, and a customer overhears her and thinks that she is a hit woman and leaves a note in her purse basically saying, hey, I'll give you $50,000 if you murder my husband. And that just sets off a chain reaction of events, and it is just such a fun story. And yeah, I reread the first one in January, beginning of February. I finished this one, and again, I just really enjoyed it. And then the other book that I read this month was Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, which is the 3rd book in the series and the most recent release. And this one, it was also an amazing time. I don't know if I rated it 4 or 5 stars. I don't even know if I rated it. Honestly, it was so long ago, like I'm not remembering. But I really enjoyed this one. I listened to the audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy of it. I do want to go out and get one, but I don't have one yet. Olivia Reads a Latte said this in her video talking about this book, and when she said it and I read the book, it really stuck with me. And when she said that the 3rd book in the series really just is the most tried and true of the cozy mystery genre, and I like really agree with that. And honestly, I really enjoyed this book. I hope she keeps writing Finlay Donovan books like forever, because I will keep reading them forever. And yeah, so I really enjoyed the 3rd one. If you haven't read the series yet, I highly recommend it. I have dog hair flying around here, but yeah, if you haven't read the series yet, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun, and yeah, just go read it. If you want to be happy, go read it. Honestly, these are the books that should get me out of a reading slump, but I just reread them, so I don't want to reread them again. But if you're in a reading slump like me and you haven't read these books, these will definitely get you out of one. And now we're going to talk about the book that basically put me in this reading slump, because this is the book I just dreaded picking this up, and this was the last book I read, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So I was so excited for this new release to come out because I really enjoyed the 2 previous works that I had read by Grady Hendrix, which is The Southern Books Club Guide to Slaying Vampires. I rated that 5 stars, and then the other one was Horror Store, which I rated 4 stars. This one I rated 3 stars, but looking back on it, I kind of want to go change my rating to a 2-star because it did put me in a massive slump, and there was no point where I genuinely wanted to pick up this book. The first 30% of this book, I just didn't like it. I thought it was super boring. There was nothing crazy happening. I mean, there is like a few like horror scenes in this book that are like, oh my god. But everything else is just, you know, and then when like the big mystery is like kind of revealed, or we get like to the real horror story of the book, I didn't find it to be that scary. And it deals with a lot of grief, so it's just kind of like depressing in the beginning. I don't know, I just did not like it, but not every book is going to be a winner. Now we're going to move into my March TBR. These are all the books I plan to read in the month of March. These books are supposed to be fast-paced books. These are supposed to be just like really engaging, page-turning, short reads, and also some old favorites in here as well. So the first one I have on my TBR is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm planning to listen to the audiobook for this. I do own the audiobook on Audible. The show is coming out March 3rd, so I really want to binge this audiobook March 1st and March 2nd in preparation for the TV show. And yes, this would be my 4th time reading this book. I absolutely love it. I have read it 3 times previously, and the 3rd time I read it was actually exactly a year ago. So I am due for a reread of this book. I've been watching all the trailers. I'm so excited for the show, and I just know if something's going to get me out of a reading slump, it's going to be like one of my all-time favorite books. We're going to continue that with another old favorite of mine that I haven't read since I originally read it in 2020, and that is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I really enjoyed this book a lot. I rated it 5 stars. Again, I read it in 2020, so it has been a while. Last year I read like over 160 books, I think, right? Or was it 140? I don't know. Was it like 162 or 142? Like, why can't I remember? My point is there's been a lot of books read between this book and where I'm at now. So I'm interested to see if it still holds up as a favorite, if it still gives me those feel-good vibes and kind of gets me back into reading again. So yeah, we have this one. I'm hoping a tried and true favorite will come through for me. Keeping on the same thing of rereading favorites, I'm going to be trying to reread Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I really enjoyed this book a lot when I originally read it. I looked back on my ratings. This one I rated 4 stars, and the second book in this series I rated 5 stars. Well, I guess it's technically a duology because I don't think she's coming out with anymore. But anyway, this one was a 4 star. The second one was a 5 star. But I'm going to be rereading this one, and then maybe I'll reread the other one too. We'll see. We'll see how the vibes go this month. I can't really commit to anything. This is just kind of a hopeful TBR, then this is exactly what I'm reading this month. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book a lot. In this book, you're following our main character, Meddy, and she gets set up on a blind date by her mother, and then her mother met the guy online. And during the course of the date, she accidentally kills him, or there's an accidental death, and she tries to cover it up. Her family owns a wedding business, and through them trying to cover it up, they accidentally ship the body to the wedding venue that they're doing, doing this really high-end rich wedding at. And so it's just kind of them trying to like cover everything up and put on this high-end wedding. And then who works at the wedding venue? Nathan, Meddy's old ex-boyfriend. So there's a little bit of romance in here, and I just love the family in this book. It's just such good feel-good characters, and just a great, I don't know, just a great cozy family that you just want to be a part of. So yes, I'm really hoping this one will get me out of my slump. I really love Jessie Q. Sutanto. I've never read a book by her that I didn't like. The next book on my TBR is My Body by Emily Ratajkowski. So this is a very short nonfiction book, and I think this just has to do, I think it's part memoir, part like commentary on society and how they view women's bodies, and the sexualization of women's bodies and all that stuff. So I'm very excited to read this book, and I feel like this one will actually be a really great one to pull me out of my reading slump. And I'm really trying to focus on reading a little bit more nonfiction this month, because lately I haven't been wanting to read fiction books, right? But what I've been listening to while I've been working is, like, again, a lot of reseller content, but also a lot of like podcasts and political commentary and just kind of like real world like commentary and real world stuff. So I think if I listen to nonfiction, that's a great way to get me back into reading again, because it's not that I'm not listening to stuff or I'm not interested. Like, I don't know. I'm just really interested into like real world stuff right now. So I feel like nonfiction would just be like a great segue back into books. The next book that we have is Summer of '69 by Ellen Hilderbrand. So Ellen Hilderbrand is a favorite author of mine. I discovered her in 2022. I read 8 books by her in 2022. The lowest rated one was a 4 star. The highest obviously was a 5 star. And out of those 8 books, only one of them was a 4 star. Most of them were 5 stars. So obviously I really enjoy her work, and I really enjoy listening to the audiobooks of her books. I think they're just really well narrated. I love the audiobook narrator that she has who does all her books. And yes, I'm just very excited to read this. Honestly, I just grabbed a random Ellen Hilderbrand book off my shelf. I have so many unread ones that I have thrifted over the past couple months. I don't even read the synopsises. I just pick them up and I just go with it. So I just randomly picked this one up. This is one maybe I'll read a different one by her, but just something by her in March should get me out of this slump. And then the next 3 books I have are all mystery thrillers, and I feel like you just need a really good mystery thriller, a really quick page turner to get you into things. So the first one we have is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. This, I think, is like kind of rich people drama. It's like a women's group where rich people drama has to do with hunting, and honestly, stuff like this is like right up my alley in the mystery thriller like genre. Like, I just love domestic thrillers. I love rich people drama and thrillers. I love just like catty groups of women and gossip, and honestly, look at it. We have like lipstick and bullets. There seems to be like an, I don't know, something sinister going on this hunting trip. And I'm just very excited for this book. It's one that's been on my radar for a while. I recently picked it up at the thrift store, and now it is on my high priority list on my TBR. So yes, hopefully I really like this one. The next one is Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. This is another one I thrifted within the past couple of months. I read The Family Game by Catherine Steadman, and I absolutely loved that book. I rated it 5 stars. I thrifted this book, and I feel like this is going to be the perfect thing to get me going, because I really liked her previous work. Hopefully I really like this one as well, and it doesn't really seem to be too long either. And this one, I believe you're following a couple who goes on a honeymoon in Bora Bora, and they find something in the water. That's pretty much all the synopsis tells you, which I'm fine with, because when it comes to mystery thrillers, I don't really love to know what's going into them. I just like when I go in blind, go along for the ride and be shocked by the twists and the turns. And the last mystery thriller I have on my TBR for this month is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a book that I have been dying to read ever since I heard Katie Colson talk about it on her channel. And basically she says it's like about a serial killer couple, which just sounds so interesting to me. And yeah, this book has been on my radar for a while. Let's just pick a mystery thriller that I have been genuinely interested in and one that's been high on my TBR but I haven't quite given the time to. Let's just do it this month, and that is My Lovely Wife. So I'm very excited for this one. I've heard nothing but great things about it. So yeah, there's that. And now we're gonna go over the audiobooks that I have on Libby that I don't own the physical copies of. Oh, and actually the last book I have, which is gonna be like my physical read of the month. Most of these are gonna be audiobooks I'm listening to. But I'm gonna try to read one physical book this month, but I guess it's technically like on my Kindle. And that is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia, and I don't remember her last name, but this, I don't really know what it's about, to be honest. I bought this on a Kindle Daily Deal, and then when I was talking in my last book video about being in a reading slump, someone commented that Our Wives Under the Sea would be a perfect book to get me out of my reading slump, and I looked at the page count. It's under 300 pages, so it's gonna be a really quick read. I've heard nothing but great reviews on it, and someone commented recommending it to me, so that one is definitely gonna be on my TBR, and I will be reading that on my Kindle. Now moving into my Libby TBR, these are the books that I am planning to read that I do not own. The first one is called How to Be Perfect, The Correct Answer to Every Moral Question by Michael Schur. Michael Schur is the creator of The Good Place, which I absolutely love that show. He's also the creator of Parks and Rec, and I do think he had a hand in The Office. I don't know what his role is in The Office, if he was a creator of that as well, because it doesn't say on here, and I feel like if he was a creator of The Office, it would be in his bio because like it's The Office, but I feel like he has something to do with it. So anyway, he has created a lot of shows or been a part of a lot of shows that I absolutely love. If I was to rank all my favorite shows, like The Office would be #1, and then Parks and Rec would have to be #2. I mean, Dexter is up there as well, and Shark Tank's also up there as well. But like, you know what I mean? Like The Office and Parks and Rec, those are just like my top 2. So I'm very excited to read this book. I watched The Good Place. I wouldn't call it an all-time favorite, but I did really enjoy The Good Place as well. So here we go. He has this one, and I'm just like very interested in this book. And again, I feel like nonfiction is going to be the perfect segue back into things for me. So we have this one, How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur. The next nonfiction book I have is This Is Your Mind on Plants by Michael Pollan. So this book is a obviously nonfiction book, and it is about like different like plants and herbs and how they affect our brain and how they are used in different cultures and how society views certain plants and their effects on our brains and why we are so drawn to things that alter our consciousness and all those different things. So I'm very excited to read this one. I think it's going to be a very interesting listen. So I have this one on my TBR, and then the last one on my TBR is The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. This is not a nonfiction book, this is a fiction book. Freya Sampson is the author of The Lost Ticket, a book that I absolutely loved. Like when I think of all-time favorite books, like I'm thinking The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson. It is just an amazing story. It's so good, a heartwarming story as well. Definitely one I would love to do a reread of. But instead of doing a reread of that, why not just check out the author's backlist? And that is going to be The Last Chance Library. So that is definitely one that I'm going to be trying to listen to as well. So those are all the books that I have read in February, the ones I plan to read in March. And I'm sorry if I was a downer talking about a reading slump all video, but you know what? We're not trying to be a downer. We're trying to find books that get us out of this slump. And I am very excited about all the ones that I have planned to read this month. And thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!